what if the unthinkable happens and Starmer looks to Kemi Badenoch and says, let's do a coalition? They're essentially the same party anyway.
This is absolutely deliberate to flood the country with infinity cheap labour to undercut the British workers.
Yeah.
And it's the singing, it's the traditions, it's the chants. Keir Starmer is a banker. Replace the B with a W.
Hello, I'm JJ Anisiobi and welcome to the Daily Expresso. Today I'm joined by fan favourite Belinda DeLucy. Belinda, how have you been? Good weekend?
Well, sort of, but I'm packing up a house for 6 people at the moment, ready to move next week. So it's kind of like a bomb site, but it's good workout for me up and down those stairs with the boxes.
You're right, yeah, get the guns working,
Yeah,
get them
come on.
working. Right, kicking things off. Farage fires back at Starmer after the Labour leader brands Reform UK's migration policy racist. The immigration row is escalating, with Nigel Farage accusing Prime Minister Keir Starmer of desperation in an Express exclusive today after Labour branded Reform UK's deportation plans racist and immoral. Farage hit back, claiming Labour has abandoned border controls and is panicking amid plummeting poll numbers. And you can read his comments in full at express.co.uk. Now, the clash marks the fiercest confrontation yet between Labour and Reform. Since Labour's landslide win 14 months ago, more than 50,000 migrants have crossed the Channel, with many voters turning to Reform ahead of the next general election. A new Ipsos poll shows Reform surging to 34%, Labour trading at 22%, and the Tories at 14%. Belinda, is this about to become the ugliest political fight we've seen in years?
Look, never interrupt your enemy while they're making a mistake, JJ. Yes. I think Napoleon said that. So, Keir's attempt to weaponise the word racist against the British people is just going to backfire. It backfired on Hillary Clinton back in 2016 when she called half of Trump's voters deplorables. And look what happened to her. And the audacity of Keir Starmer and Labour accusing Reform of being racist when it is their identity politics that created the hierarchy of victimhood based on race, which, sucked for thousands of white working class girls in Rotherham and Rochdale and the like. They created the DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, which literally says to people of colour and women, you don't have what it takes to get to the top by your own. We need to sneak you in the back door. Whereas we believe whatever race, whatever sex you are, you can be as bright and brilliant as each other, And it is the left that constantly runs the narrative of anti-white majority. So if the countryside, is racist just because the majority of whites live there, you've listened to Humza Yousaf's speech in Scotland, I presume, about white people in pubs. Everything is negatively connected to majority white people, and that's all coming from the left. So Reform's policy has nothing to do with race, JJ. So if he wants to pick a fight over it, he has no authority to talk about racism, and it will be like a wet noodle against a boxing glove of Nigel Farage.
Well, Farage also says Labour have given up on border controls. Is that fair? Is that accurate? They haven't. I'm not sure they've exactly given up on border controls. If I go through the airport, there's a hard border there, but they can't really stop the boats.
They are in complete control of our borders. They've decided to open them. So it's not a case of them giving up or being out of control. This is absolutely deliberate to flood the country with infinity cheap labour to undercut the British workers, to make sure our children don't get a chance of housing, jobs, student places. In my day, because I know I'm a bit older, JJ. In my day, me as a young person only had to compete on a national level for student places, for housing and jobs because of mass immigration, because of open borders. The young now have to compete with the entire planet for housing and jobs and student places. It's so deeply unfair. That is immoral. That's a wicked tool that's been used against the British people. So, for me personally, it's not a case of whether they're, given up. They have absolutely deliberately made this happen. And by refusing to leave the treaties, they can't deport. And when you can't deport, you have no control over your borders.
Starmer says that Reform's proposal to scrap indefinite leave to remain, it's immoral. It would tear Britain apart. I lean towards Starmer in agreement on this. As you've said to you before, my wife is American. This would affect her if your man Nigel gets into power tomorrow. My wife's gonna have to leave the country, which means me as a Brit, I will take my talents and also leave the country. I'll take my wealth and I'll go somewhere else instead, somewhere where it's more accepting. Do you think it's a mistake for Farage to be pushing this narrative of essentially punishing people retrospectively?
JJ, I think that's a lot of fear-mongering going on your side, I'm
Is
afraid. We're not saying, if you're on indefinite leave to remain, you now have to go. You just have to renew your visa. So,
and earn 60,000 a year.
No, you have to renew your visa, and yes, you have to be eligible. But it is not the case that we're just going to be mass deporting people. What this is aiming at is for those who have come here relatively recently on the Boris wave, 800,000 of them are about to be eligible to have our benefit system, access to schools, NHS, everything. It's going to cost hundreds of billions of pounds. That has to stop because we simply can't afford it. We do not have the infrastructure, JJ.
Okay.
But the route to citizenship has not been taken away. So if you are over here on indefinite leave to remain and you want to stay, go for British citizenship. What's the problem?
Okay. But someone who's come over here in the last year
Yeah.
and is earning £40,000, they just about qualify for it. Under Nigel's new term, it would be £60,000. So those people will not be able to then apply for this new visa instead, would they?
Well,
because they wouldn't qualify.
There will be cases where they don't qualify, but I bring it back to the point that Nigel's policy is there to serve the British people and what's good for us, what's good for our public services, for our children. Our main focus isn't how good is this for those from other countries who want to come and live here. That can't be our first and main priority when we're talking about public services, infrastructure and benefits. And by the way, Nigel's going to come, or reform is going to come hard down on those Brits who refuse to take up jobs when they've been offered them again and again and again. So it's not just this kind of anti-immigrant thing. We need a complete reset. We have too many people. JJ, we're one of the smallest, most highly populated countries in Europe. England is tiny. We simply cannot afford the numbers, and we welcome all those who bring skills and talent here if they obviously integrate, speak English. What's wrong with paying your own way, not committing crimes, and speaking the language of the country you want to go to? That's the bare minimum any normal country would require for anyone who wishes to stay here.
Let's talk about the polls. Rather striking. Reform UK 34%, Labour 22%, and the Tories at 14%. What does this tell us about the public mood right now?
I think they look at Westminster and see complete and utter failure, just continuous managed decline from all the legacy parties the two main parties, Tory and Labour, are both have two separate parties within the party. So that's why it's impossible for them to really pass anything of significance, because the infighting, God, we're sick and tired of the infighting in all these major parties. We're so bored of it. I think there's a reason Reform are doing so well. Nigel listens. The whole team listens to what the people are saying. There is no elitism. The arrogance and the sneering of the metropolitan liberal elite, both very apparent in the Tory and the Labour Party, it has turned people off politics altogether. And I think the polling has a chance of getting higher once we engage with those who gave up on voting. It's not just about getting, voters from other parties. Yeah. Those who just refuse to vote, I think, will come back to the fold. But there'll be peaks and troughs, JJs. Don't rest on your laurels. Reform has to earn the vote of the people. Nothing is a given.
Okay. Well, speaking of earning the vote, it is now the time of Starmer. The Labour conference is in full swing, but it's turning into a real political circus. The party's make or break conference is underway, and to say the Prime Minister is under pressure would be an understatement. Reform is now topping the polls. Andy Burnham is openly setting out his stall for Labour leader, and cabinet divisions are bursting into the open. During her speech today, Rachel Reeves was interrupted by a Palestine protester, and then she blames the previous Tory government for leaving Britain's finances in the disarray we see today. Meanwhile, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is preparing a harder line on migrants applying for indefinite leave to remain. But behind the podiums, insiders describe ministers fighting like rats in a sack. Like rats in a sack. I hate
Perfect.
rats. That image of Starmer walking around, all these ministers beneath him fighting and clawing at each other. This is going to be a tough week for Starmer, right?
This was supposed to be his victory lap. This conference, he's a newly elected PM with a huge majority. There should have been a red carpet and flowers thrown on the ground as he walked into conference. It's like a wake. Yeah. I mean, seriously, there is. I think they are utterly in shock at how Labour's popularity has plummeted. I mean, Keir Starmer arrived at the conference being polled as the most unpopular UK Prime Minister in history since records began. So that's going to, be a punch to his stomach as he gets up on the stage and does his sort of dialect, sinus issue speech, which is going to send everyone to sleep from a speech he's written. There's such a big difference between obviously Nigel and Keir. Keir can't do anything off the cuff with passion because he doesn't believe in anything. So I think the Labour Party at the moment is in utter chaos. I think it's going to be almost impossible for them to remove Keir Starmer, even though over half, I think, have been polled saying that they would like that to take place. Andy Burnham, of course, is now reported as saying Keir's created a climate of fear, or there's a climate of fear in the Labour Party now, and debates being suppressed, and this is no good at all. But Andy, I think, has peaked too early, JJ.
Yeah.
There's very little route for him to ever challenge Keir on leadership, and I would suggest to people, be careful what you wish for, because if Keir Starmer does go, I think you're only going to get a hard left momentum Corbynite taking over. So we just have to pray for an early general election.
Well, Tory MP and Daily Express columnist Esther McVeigh says, she knows them all very well. She works with these people every day. She says that Andy Burnham is just a northern version of Keir Starmer.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of difference between the two. Andy may be more to the left than Keir Starmer. He may be popular in Manchester. I don't know what he's achieved there. I think a bus route at some point. I mean, nothing else. But he's also got a huge amount of people who don't like him in Manchester as well. He's not that well known throughout the rest of the country. But yeah, it will be more of the same, because none of the parties, especially Labour, whoever's the leader, are going to be able to ever change or enforce the change that is needed. They will not be able to cut the state bill. They will not be able to cut benefits bill, because the Labour backbenchers will always rebel against us. So it's always going to be economic woes under Labour.
Well, I've been thinking about this with the polling suggesting that if we have a general election tomorrow, it's going to be Reform who win. But what if the unthinkable happens and Starmer looks to Kemi Badenoch and says, let's do a coalition? They're essentially the same party anyway. That's the only way they can keep Reform out now. We're going to have some big coalition that just excludes Reform.
I listen to Kemi Badenoch, poor thing. She's like whistling in a hurricane. I don't think her name's even been mentioned at the Labour conference. It's just every room is filled with the spectre of Nigel Farage today. He's living rent-free in all their heads. The only time they ever mention the Tories is to excuse their failures by blaming the Tories, for their 14 years. That's the only time you ever hear mentioning. There's no way the Tories and Labour will get together, but there is a worry, certainly for me, that Labour and the Lib Dems and the Greens and the Independents will get together and form some kind of alliance. And even more, they will be absolutely determined to demonise Reform voters. I mean, look what they did to us in 2016. I think we were all in shock at how violently and aggressively they turned on the people who voted Brexit. Lammy called us worse than Nazis. The Green Party said we were far right. All this kind of thing just happened because we voted to leave the EU. Nothing to do with race at all. I think it's going to be put on steroids, and I think Reform are just going to have to be incredibly brave and hold the fort. And they will overcome. We have a chance of winning if people vote for us. It's the only chance for change, JJ.
Okay. Now, from political battles at the Labour conference to royal drama at Sandringham, it's been a bruising week for Sarah Ferguson, one she's described as devastating. The scandal erupted after leaked emails revealed the Duchess of York once called Jeffrey Epstein her supreme friend and even apologised for disowning him publicly back in 2011. Her team insists that the apology was written under legal pressure, fearing Epstein would sue her for defamation. Not quite sure how a convicted paedophile can claim defamation, but whatever. The damage has been done. Questions are now swirling about her royal future, and reports suggest she and the talentless Prince Andrew have been quietly dropped from the Christmas guest list at Sandringham. Boo-hoo-hoo. Friends of King Charles say the monarch wants both of them to remain invisible at future family gatherings. For Fergie, it's not just personal embarrassment, it's a fresh reminder of how deeply the Epstein scandal still haunts the royal family. This is the right move, isn't it? Belinda, Charles has done the absolute top right thing here.
Absolutely. I mean, King Charles has the duty to protect the monarchy while he is king. The monarchy is the personal embodiment of our flag. You know, it's far more than just whoever's king or queen at the time. It is part of the very fabric of who we are as a people. So his job is to protect it and keep it there for future generations. Who knows, we may even have, you know, another Elizabeth II coming up somewhere along the line. So we need to keep it safe for that. And so any outside threats to that could destabilise the reputation of the monarchy, I think King Charles has to act very decisively over it. I think he did it with Prince Harry, and he has to do it with Andrew and Sarah. Bearing in mind they were both, or certainly Andrew was there at the Duchess of Kent's funeral very recently, and I don't know if your listeners saw Andrew try and crack a joke with Prince William, and Prince William just blanking him like he wasn't there, and that was really reflective of the mood, I think, of the royal family. When it comes to child abuse, paedophilia, you have to cut all ties, you have to cut strings.
Absolutely.
Either that or Sarah and Andrew are going to have to wear disguises, find speakeasy-style exit and entrance secret, you know, ways of getting in and out of private family dues. But for now, absolutely, they have to be completely invisible. The monarchy can't afford to be connected to people who have supported convicted paedophiles.
Absolutely. But they're still living in a 7-bedroom, 30-room mansion. Yes. Just the two of them. Why doesn't? And Charles is paying for it. Why doesn't he just kick them out and put them in a little tiny flat down in Battersea or something instead?
I don't know. I know for certain you cannot sack your own brother, as much as some might like to around the world. That's one relationship. You know, unfortunately, that remains. I think Andrew is on a naval pension at the moment. I don't know how much that scrapes up for him every year. Not enough.
Not enough for a 30-room mansion, that's for sure.
As long as the public purse aren't paying for it, then I think, you know, King Charles can do what he likes with his brother. But they need to go incognito, underground, for quite a while.
Do you think they can ever recover from this, Fergie and Andrew?
I think maybe personally with the royal family they can along the way. I know Edward VIII tried to do it with the Queen after abdicating. I don't know if any of you have watched The Crown. and the attempts of Edward VIII to try and come back into royal life after causing the monarchy such a scandal. And I don't think he was ever quite forgiven and was never allowed to take a place again by the side of the Queen. So I think they can be quite ruthless with saying, no, you're risking the monarchy, goodbye. But perhaps, you know, Beatrice and Eugenie are obviously very close to William and Kate. I don't know if they can sway them to relax it a bit, but certainly not in public. And I don't think it's a good idea now at all.
Well, I've got to ask this question again. What does it say about the British public? Because I feel Harry and Meghan, who, by the way, have never been friends with a paedophile, they seem to be hated in this country, and Meghan gets death threats. She doesn't want to come back here because she's in fear for her life. Harry comes, everyone's slating him. Oh, Charles shouldn't meet him, yada, yada, yada. Meanwhile, you've got two people who were celebrating a paedophile after he'd been released from jail, stayed friends with him, told him how great he was, how much they loved him, and the public are kind of just like, oh yeah, Fergie and Andrew, they're a bit silly, aren't they? Why is this country not screaming, Charles, get rid of them? Do not let these people even stay in this country. Put them on a foreign island somewhere else.
Well, number one, you're nothing special if you get death threats, JJ. I had them ever since, you know, I dared to oppose the EU. You know, that is just the norm. So as much as I can wish Harry and Meghan a wonderful life over in America and to have a private life, what they have done to the monarchy has been relentless. Year after year, there's been no apology, no remorse, and they may be very nice people individually, but I think they are more of a risk if they come back to the royal family than Charles keeping Andrew in, you know, a big house.
Well, hang on a minute.
I do. I'm talking about risk. Listen, Charles has been very clear, I think, keep your distance, stay invisible. I think that's the absolute right thing to do. I think the monarchy will be horrified at Andrew and Sarah's affiliation, and they will be cut off accordingly, which is the right thing to do. The problem with Harry and Meghan is that they see the monarchy as purely a cash cow and a way to increase their fame and currency. And the way that Harry's trying to fiddle his way back into good grace with the monarchy at the moment is very, very suspicious. And I just don't think you can trust any of them. I think both couples, you know, should stay away from the company.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about Harry and Meghan because the royal roller coaster keeps on turning. Prince Harry is back in the spotlight, but King Charles has thrown a major roadblock in his return as a working royal. According to insiders, King Charles has ruled out any comeback. Sources say the King's decision is driven by Harry and Meghan's Meghan's US-based projects, which he believes clash with the values the monarchy stands for. With the crown already under strain, Charles appears determined to avoid further instability linked to the Sussexes' ventures. Oh, the royal family's virtues and what they stand for. Well, I guess in this case he means having a brother and a sister-in-law who support a paedophile. Those are the virtues that King Charles is talking about, is it?
No, listen, JJ, I think the country would agree with you. Being friends with a convicted paedophile, especially after, is the worst. Like, it's terrible. It's hard to imagine going any lower than that. So I think we're on agreement on that. The issue with Harry and Meghan is that they are, at the moment, I believe, a continuous worry forevermore for the royal family. I think they will buckle eventually and allow Harry to maybe come to more public things, if they reunite, and in which case he needs to be tried and tested for trust. I mean, Meghan, I don't know if you've seen her latest With Love from Meghan cooking series, which makes it so unctuous. It makes me feel physically ill. It's almost titled in a way that says, "You're welcome, everybody." I'm putting a flower on a flapjack and you're welcome. I think that's tanking. It's certainly not hit the top 300 Netflix for live streaming. I don't think she's selling many pots of jam at the moment, and there are trouble at Montecito's gates financially. And I think they're clearly wanting to use their connections to make more money or create more fame. They can be nice people as well at the same time. I'm not demonizing them. I wish them well, JJ, but they are not for the monarchy now.
Well, I don't think these things people say in the press, there's financial issues coming to Montecito. They've made like 100 million quid over the last few years. There's no financial worries from Harry and Meghan. They are doing completely fine. They don't have to work ever again. They could stop working today. They're going to be good for the rest of their life.
Do you not think the sort of hypocrisy of the last few years, Harry preaching about climate change and then jumping on private jets, him whining incessantly about the British taxpayer not forking up for his security, and then only a few weeks ago flying off to Ukraine, a literal war zone, apparently not worried about his security there. I do think it is that sort of very narcissistic, self-indulgent privilege that they can't get away from. There's nothing humble or dignified, and I do think they are the opposite of the Queen's values of never complain, never explain, country monarchy first. That is why I think and they're way too over-therapized. They have had way too much therapy, my God. I think, as I said before, I think Harry and Meghan need to just take a very long stay over in the US, and maybe we can stop them at border controls if they try and come in.
Not without open borders, you won't. Do you think William had any part to play in this decision from Charles? It's
interesting, because I know that there have been accusations against Prince Harry recently, which I don't really agree with, saying that his meeting with King Charles was, in effect, trying to put a wedge in between William and his father. I saw no evidence of that, and I do think the press can be too hasty in trying to sort of pick on him a lot of the time. But I think for Prince William, he's going to be the big daddy one day. He's going to be the king of the castle, and at that stage, I think Harry's not got a chance really of coming back into the fold, which is why he's trying to make amends with his father, I think, before then, to get firmly, wedged back in before Prince William becomes king.
Okay. Well, in a Daily Expresso first, we're going to talk about golf, because there were fights, there were bad behaviour, there was drama that wasn't even at the palace. Some rowdy Americans gave Europe a very different kind of challenge. Rory McIlroy has opened up about the abuse he and his teammates faced during a dramatic Ryder Cup in New York. Europe edged out the US 15-13, but the win came amid shocking spectator behaviour, including McIlroy's wife Erica being hit by a beer. He condemns the actions, saying golf should uphold higher standards of respect and etiquette. He's completely right, but what do you expect when you let American frat boys into the club, dude? Anyway, the drama didn't stop there. The victorious and classy European team sent a cheeky shout-out to President Donald Trump, who was watching from the course. McIlroy filmed the team chanting with the trophy in hand, and Trump responded graciously as ever, writing on Truth Social, "Yes, I'm watching. Congratulations." A classy act from the Donald, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't realise golf was so much fun. I never watch it normally. But knowing there's going to be drinking and abuse and chanting, I'd have been all over it.
It's the first time I've ever found golf not a complete and utter snooze fest? Because my husband puts it on to go to sleep to. It's like his sleep music, like one of those lullabies. And he had it on last night, and we're watching it, and the shouts and the jeers. Oh my God! It made football fans look like Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
It was really spectacularly stimulating for the viewer, because it was the crowd kind of turning on a very dignified, civilized, sort of gentleman's sport in a really sort of rough and quite nasty way. And I didn't really expect that from America. I don't know why. At the tennis matches they have over there, people tend to be better behaved. But to throw things at your wife, to hurl abuse constantly, to try and interrupt your game, I don't know where the referee... Is there a referee in golf? Who overlooks? I mean, is there not someone with a massive siren that goes around and escorts badly behaved people off? I think they should probably be banned. So although Rory McIlroy's sort of celebrations on the plane, weren't very humble, I don't blame him at all after what he and his teammates have gone through.
Yeah.
I would not accept anyone hitting a family member of mine. I would probably go and give them a right old rough and tumble. Like fighting, that is, by the way. So I can cap with my words. And I thought Trump was very gracious, as he is. Yeah. No, I might tune in again next year. I think it's happening in Ireland next year.
Oh, I mean, I know they're like a drinking island, but they're not as rowdy as these crazy Americans were. Jeez. But on a more serious note, we've got the World Cup happening in North America next year. If these crazy Americans think they can act like that to proper football fans, us Europeans, we're proper hooligans when it comes to football, they'll be in for an absolute beating.
Yeah, they will. I think I've seen lots of TikToks go viral about Americans coming to visit England just to see what the football game is like and to be with the fans. Yeah. And it's the singing, it's the traditions, it's the chants. Keir Starmer is a banker, replace the B with a W. All the chants. I think the Americans are fascinated with it and quite enjoy that sort of tribalism, and I do too. We have a football pub at the end of my road. Filled with sort of, drinking young men singing, chanting, and I have to push past them through when I'm doing my shopping. Never seen a politer bunch. Always so accommodating and courteous. I have to say that image our football fans have got is really, really, really it's very misinformation is what I'd say, because most of them are a decent bunch of lads who just want to go out, have a good time and have a beer. Americans, need to lighten up a little bit. I think they only drink bottled beers, don't they? They should do a few drinking games, join in, grab arms with our football hooligans, and I think they will have a jolly good time when we're over there.
Wonderful. Right. The caffeine has worn off. Thank you, Belinda, for joining us today. And come back tomorrow on the Daily Expresso, where we will be joined by Kemi Badenoch. See you then.